Okay,
All right,
there we go.
we got caught. Bad production. But
Uh,
this is a special class in session.
That's too many specials.
This is the most special class in session that there has been, because I would have to say that by far this is my most favorite guest that we've had on the show.
Uh-huh.
Probably my most favorite guest that we could ever have on the show.
Wow.
This is my son. This is Marc Williams.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
I was talking to some really awesome people, and I like to study awesome people. That's one of the reasons why history appealed to me. And it occurred to me, other than the fact that he generally doesn't want to do it, that I should I should get a chance to learn from one of my heroes in life, which is my son. So we had a very interesting conversation about his life so far. He's a college graduate. He received his master's degree a year ago.
Yeah.
Year ago.
6 months.
And
a couple months ago. Late 2024.
Late 2024. And he is completing his first year in his PhD program in history.
Yay.
All right. And he is a teaching assistant at university, which he was at his previous university. He is at this university. He's just kicking butt with both feet. In fact, he has a book that is being completed that he's writing with one of the foremost up-and-coming Lincoln scholars in American history. And
keep talking yourself up.
Hey, nobody else will. And hopefully that will be a book that will be published. So he will be graduating with his PhD, a published author, which I can't say enough about this guy. He's great. But of the many things, his primary area of study is post-colonial antebellum period. Yes.
Yeah. Antebellum, early national period in American history. Yes.
And specifically, your primary area of research are Black institutions, Black settlement, and Black resistance.
Right.
During this period.
Yes. Between 1780, roughly, and 18, like right before the Civil War. Around there.
Now, what is really cool, while we make good tag team partners, other than our natural connection, is the fact that his area of study buds up to mine because I'm 1860 to 1865. And so that made our book really work. And he's half my age. So all these things that he's done, I'm amazed that it took me a lifetime to do it, and he's going to have all that stuff done before he starts.
Way to give away my age. Thank you.
They don't know how old.
Well, I mean, okay, that's fair. Yeah. Right, keep it ambiguous. All right.
See that? Anyway, but what we were talking about, of the many amazing things about him, Tracy has autism. And okay, to confuse you all, his name is Marc Tracy Williams. I call him Tracy.
That's with a C, by the way. Marc.
Yes. M-A-R-C. Marc.
Everyone get that wrong. Even the person who wrote my CPR license got it wrong when I was in high school.
Your CPR license?
Yeah.
I would imagine everybody would put M-A-R-K.
I applied for a CPR license, put my actual name in there with a C, and they still told it wrong.
I don't like. You know what?
Choice.
People do that to me. I will put Dr. Darnell Bolton on stuff, and they'll write Mr. Bolton. And I'm like, is that what I wrote? Anyway.
I don't get it. Whatever.
Yes. Yeah. So when I say Tracy, I am meaning Marc. Tracy has autism. He was diagnosed when he was a baby and re-diagnosed before college. And we have regular conversations about how he is just as a son, not how's your autism, pal? No. Most of the time, and that was something we were talking about. I forget that he has autism. We never treated you like
Mm-mm.
it just really didn't come up.
No,
It was just that's him.
No.
Um,
Rarely would it ever. Sometimes it would, like every once in a while, but not often, and not even often enough for
Yeah.
it to be like a regular thing. So,
but I began to think about how different an experience a lot of people with autism have. When I used to work in sports, and people would bring their children to be part of the tournaments or leagues, and they would introduce their children's diagnosis before they even told me their kids' names. So, I have a son that's autistic. He has these limitations. I want him to learn this. He needs that. And I'm like, whoa, what's his name?
yeah.
Oh, his name's Tommy. Does Tommy like soccer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has he ever played? Oh, he loves soccer. That's all he does is play soccer. I said, that was 3 things you could have told me about Tommy before we got to his diagnosis.
Yeah.
He's so much more than any singular aspect of him.
Yeah.
Think about it. We don't say
it's one of the it's one of those things that a lot of parents don't really think about when they bring up their child's condition before they even bring up their name.
I never did
the
that.
only thing that they really
I never did that. I'm going to tell them about your sense of humor. I'm going to tell them about your talents. I'm going to tell them about. I mean, I'm going to tell them about a whole bunch of stuff about you before that may not even come up. Yeah. So I that used to just kind of rock me when I met people that did that. And then when I would see the result of that, like at the university this semester, I had a young man who was just, you could see that he embodied what he had been told about himself.
Yeah.
And his limitations. And I'm going, bro, you in college.
Right.
You're doing more than the average person.
Right.
Why are you telling me that you are disabled when you're functioning at a higher level than half of the population at a university? So and so when people, especially when you're talking to people who have autism or bipolar disorder or whatever, all of us are going to enter the family of disability if we live long enough.
Yeah, obviously.
It's either going to be mental disability, it's going to be a physical disability. No matter how athletic you are, the most athletic people get old.
Yeah.
And stuff don't work like it used to. Or people suffer from dementia, or they suffer from Parkinson's. So all of us are going to have some type of something that makes us function in a different way, but yet we still function. So that was what sparked up the conversation between you and I when we were looking for a topic. And you were saying that you wouldn't mind talking about your experience.
Sure.
As a scholar.
Yeah.
With autism. So we've kind of in pre-production kind of ran into it, but your first impressions of autism, when did it ever come up? Did you have a hard time in elementary school? Did you have a hard time in high school?
Man, okay. So the first time I was even aware of autism was definitely not when I was a toddler, like a little kid in younger. It's not younger, but in elementary school necessarily. When I was younger, I wasn't really told about autism very much from my mother or from you very often, and I'm assuming it was because you wanted me to sort of, you didn't want my autism like to, or you didn't want me to sort of think that my autism was the only thing that defined me, possibly.
I would say it was just so much more to you. That wasn't the biggest thing to address.
Right.
The biggest thing to address was
my personality,
your personality, your behavior. If you were doing something wrong,
well, yeah, you're gonna come.
It wasn't that you were doing nothing wrong because you were autistic. You were doing something wrong because you was doing something wrong.
Right.
You know, and we were more interested in you than what somebody told us about you.
Sure.
That's probably.
I appreciate that. Thank you. So I didn't really understand what autism was, and my parents didn't really tell me much, but even the fact that I had autism, at least from what I recall, the first time I remember somebody even mentioning autism to me was I think my mother just sort of offhandedly talked to someone else about my autism. I think we were on a camping. Yeah, they were on a camping trip. I think when I was 11.
Oh, when you jumped in the water?
Yes, that was the moment I jumped in the water. That was fun. You're not getting any context for that. I'm sorry. But
full Jordan jogging suits, Jordan socks, Jordan shoes. He let this raft fly out and didn't know how to swim.
Just know that after that I
gets the raft, bring the raft.
I was pretty much soaking wet for the rest of that trip.
So I guess.
But
y'all didn't have no other clothes.
No, I didn't. I didn't think that was gonna happen. I didn't think I was gonna have to jump in the water. Get the.
Y'all didn't spend the night camping.
No, we spent the night camping, but I didn't change. I couldn't change clothes at all. At least when I remember.
How were you gonna spend the night without a change of clothes? I
don't think we knew we were gonna stay there for that long, but I don't know. Maybe it was a lesson thing. And the point is gonna change.
Gotcha.
That sucks. But anyway, so my mother.
So it was an explanation of why you jumped in the water.
No. I don't remember what brought it up. I just remember my mother was talking to one of her friends about it while we were driving back home, and that's when I was like, wait, I have this. What does that mean? But somehow I knew, and I told him this, that it was different in some ways from, an able-bodied. I know that again, there's a different word for it, but like able-bodied form of intellectual and social understanding, or behavior.
Well, that sucks. I guess we could have done a better job with
hiding it. No,
letting you know.
I was gonna look. I mean, just from that, now that you told me that you guys have talked about it, away from me, now I know that it's something that is brought up sometimes. So.
Well, no, I guess we should have had a better conversation with you about it. It was just when it wasn't a huge deal to me. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't a hurdle. It was more about getting you the things you needed, and I just. When I say give you the things you needed, it wasn't like getting you the things you needed as an autistic person.
Yeah, I know.
It's providing for a child, telling them right for wrong, giving them support, love, just like your sister.
Yeah, just the standard.
Yeah, it just never really.
I get it.
Yeah, it just never really came. But I guess we kind of did you a disservice.
I understand what you were trying to do and all, but at the time when I heard mother say oh, he has autism. Or maybe it was autism or Asperger's, one of those.
Yeah, it was that called it Asperger's back in the day.
I know, but it's autism. I was a little confused. Mm-hmm. It's something that I thought I knew in my heart somehow it was different from the standard typical social experience, and that's gonna sat with me for a long time, and then
our cousin is on here. What's up, Nick?
Hey, hello, how's it going?
Go ahead.
I hope you'll love this conversation I'm having right now. It's not too chaotic over here, hopefully not. Anyway, and then I remember when I was in high school and I was during my sophomore year, and I was not really doing well in English class. I remember my mother bringing it up again to my teacher at the time that he had autism, and that's another. It kind of stuck with me even more. Mm-hmm. I had this disability.
Okay.
And yet, but the time I thought it really not affected me, but I was more self-conscious about my autism was when you took me to get studied at that clinic. Not studied, you know what I mean?
Okay, look, I did not send my baby to get
that
studied.
Sounds mean. That sounds mean. That doesn't sound right.
We had him
evaluated. That's the word.
He was finished in high school. He was looking at his options.
I been evaluated.
And we took him to a professional clinic that diagnosed autism.
Mm-hmm.
And we want and autism as a field of study was changing, where it used to have Asperger's and different levels. Then it became the spectrum. So it's just one spectrum, and there are no different names. It's all the autism. It's just where you fall on this autistic spectrum. So we were finding out if indeed, because we don't know, we're not, well, his mother is a medical professional, but not that type. Is this something you grow out of? Was he misdiagnosed when he was young? Because he did fine in high school. You did fine in high school. That was great.
I mean, not when I first started. I got better.
But that's just it. I did the same thing. Every time I went from one level to the next, my grades dropped.
Yeah.
And then I learned the game, and my grades were fine. And then I went to the next level, and my grades dropped. So that didn't surprise me.
Sure.
But I'm sorry. Once you said I took you to get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only time I felt very self-conscious about my, or when I felt the most self-conscious about my autism.
Diana, this is my son, Mark.
Hi, how's it going? So yeah, when I got evaluated, that was like the peak of when I felt self-conscious about my autism. If I had to determine a peak where it was probably there. Okay. But the thing is, by that point, I've already gone through like the trials of high school and and I've already gone through like the many issues that a lot of people tend to go through whenever they're going through high school, especially when it comes to sort of understanding of how I process information, sort of understanding why my grades were not as high as they wanted to be, sort of understanding why maybe I wasn't turning assignments as on time like a lot of people were. But so I guess it was nice to sort of have that moment to like maybe truly understand, or at least have a somewhat better reason to understand like why I was doing what I was doing, or maybe understand like how I affected why my actions were what they were maybe. But the thing is, before then I had like no proper measurement between how I thought and how social I was compared to everyone else, because I kind of assumed that I was like everyone else because I didn't really have that understanding of my autism quite yet. So I just kind of assumed like when I was, for a long time when I was bad, my grades and my actions just kind of sort of.
Well, you understand your ability helped mask that too, because you didn't need to be in special classes. You didn't. In fact, you were in AP classes. You're in advanced placement classes. Yes. And you were kicking butt. You were on the roll and all of that. So perhaps if there were a need for you to be in those types of classes, the conversation would
come up. Yeah, exactly.
But it's like
Yeah. So I didn't really feel like there was any reason to like process my autism, even though I didn't quite understand what that was quite yet, even though I heard my parents tell me that I had it.
When did you absolutely understand this is what autism is?
By the time I entered college, for sure.
Okay.
Definitely by the time I entered my sophomore year, which was a rough year. Well, no, not about my freshman year, which is even worse.
Now we had a conversation as to why you had a rough. Now, again, I got a commitment to the truth. I got to keep it real. I flunked out of college.
Yeah.
I flunked out bad. Okay. What is your topic? Learning with autism. But my topic is I'm interviewing my baby.
Well, my specific
and he we were talking about how awesome he is. I mean, he's kicking butt with both feet.
Yeah.
He's finished. He's completing his first year of his doctoral program.
Yeah.
And he's blew through his master's degree with a 4.0. Ripped up his college. But he had a hard start at the beginning. But that's where he and I were talking, where autism came up.
Right.
Where I was saying, I'm not sure that the troubles you had in high school, in college, were troubles of autism or troubles of young man. Because at least you didn't fail out. I failed out. So I'm supposed to be the one that gets this. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. You had trouble. I failed out. So was it just being 19, 20, 21, not doing what you were supposed to do?
Okay, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, a lot of that, I know.
That's what I'm saying. Now, it could have been. It could have been, but I'm going to tell you, knowing you, as long as I have and as close as I haven't, I think your intellect is higher. Now, that's possibly due to your autism. I don't know. But the way that you remember things has been amazing since you were a kid.
Okay, that is fair.
And I could see that applying to the social science more than physical science. Physical science it doesn't ring with me like social science does. When I asked you why you were doing so well in history, you said, I like the stories.
Right, yeah.
That was why I did well in law school. That's why I did well in history, because I liked the stories.
Right, yeah.
So, but go ahead. Your what you found, was there any parts of autism that you said, nah, that ain't true? When people say, "Oh, this is what autism,"
other than it being a mental illness, obviously that was the one thing that stuck out to me.
Mental illness. Why does that not rock with you?
Because the way that people describe autism as a mental illness is so, it felt was very incorrect. Well, not even just based on my experiences, but also because of how most people I've heard who have autism talk about themselves, sort of describe themselves. When people bring, okay, so I guess when people bring up autism as a mental illness, they always talk about how autism automatically just makes people's social and intellectual skills just much slower. And I'm describing autism as if it were a mental illness. I'm not saying it actually is, but like assuming let's pretend for a second that autism is a mental illness. People say that autism just has is a disease that has the ability to make people slower, intellectually incapable. They don't follow the standard that many people in high school or college or possibly even when they get a PhD follow. They process information much more slowly, and that's the reason why they can't exactly obtain a license. They can't obtain a CPR license or anything, or they can't exactly hold down a job, because they'll just they're automatically they have an incapableness of like keeping up. It's usually what I heard people describe autism as mental illness. And I know that's a weird.
I've heard what you've heard. The emotional part of it.
Yeah, that's another thing too.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, another thing people bring up a lot is autism as a like emotional capability. Like you're not able to like showcase or process emotion the same way that most people do. Like when let's for example, like someone is sad and someone is sort of grieving towards you. Someone who thinks autism as a mental illness would say like, oh, you're not capable of like feeling their pain or feeling their sadness. Like you were just kind of looked at with a stone cold face and not do anything. Or you would just like if someone was laughing like laughing at a joke, you wouldn't do the same thing, because like people with autism just don't understand humor in the same way that most people do. Or like when someone's disgusted, they don't, or someone sees something that's disgusting, they don't feel disgust in the same way people do. Stuff like that I've also heard.
And I don't think that's not rooted in some degree of truth.
Sure.
I think it's taken to an extreme. Like, well, They won't be as they. It's one thing to say someone has an inability to exhibit emotional affection.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. Another one to say they express it differently than most people.
Uh-huh.
That's not the same thing. So to tell somebody with an autistic child that they won't be able to
Yeah, you won't be able,
express,
you won't be
yeah,
able to hold out, have a partner or something because you
right,
can't express affection.
well, like in your case, they told us you would not drive, you would always be regulated to special education, you would not have meaningful emotional relationships. Just a whole bunch of crap. The dude was driving since he was 15, had his own car since he was 17.
And
drove all over. He didn't drove all over the place. He didn't been out of the country.
it's just because for a long time people have had a very particular, specific understanding of what autism was,
mm-hmm.
And of course, not until very recently we understand like autism is a spectrum. There are very different facets
mm-hmm.
of what autism is. It's obviously not a disease. This is we can let down, but now no matter how much a government tries to say it is, there are different ways. Like there are different types of autism. There are different ways that people with autism sort of process emotions, or process information, or showcase like social skills. And it's not a particular way people think.
Do you feel that you carry a responsibility to represent people with autism?
Well, I've struggled to say that only because again, my experience as someone with autism is very different from many people. Maybe it's similar for some people in some ways, but I don't want to say I'm like the main representation for autistic people because who knows how many people. I mean, I don't know many. Admittedly, I don't know a lot of people with autism, but I can't say that the way that I sort of function, I guess, the way that I process knowledge or express emotion is the same way that you have, and you should sort of understand that we're the same. It's not quite that, and
well,
that's
I'm
sort of
saying,
the same thing with anyone with any disability. But
okay, maybe I need to make the question more specific. Just like all black men, don't have the same talents, advantages, opportunities
mm-hmm.
that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But in my taking advantage of whatever I'm doing, every accomplishment I make, I keep it in my mind that I don't just represent myself or represent my family, but I represent black men broadly.
Okay.
So when you go to say, well, black men are X, Y, and Z, you got to count me in there because
mm-hmm.
PhD right here. University professor right here. So you have to, at the very least, broaden that scope when you're talking about this particular group. Do you feel that I imagine you feel that responsibility as a black man.
Yes, as a black man.
Yes, I think that's kind of a given, just from the conversation we've had.
Right.
But does that extend to autism when people are talking about autistic people?
Increasingly, it feels that way. Honestly, that I feel a responsibility to represent myself as an autistic person, if only because again we are more and more. It seems like people have this very limited perspective of autism and what it is, and even worse, like the worst case scenario is like people thinking that autism is a straight up mental illness that can't be cured.
Do you think it's something even to be cured?
Well, no, honestly, it's not a mental illness. But
right. Yeah.
But what I mean is like people have a very narrow-minded. Some, not everyone, but some people have a very narrow-minded way.
I'd say most people because they don't know.
Yeah. They have a very narrow-minded way of understanding what autism is, and like the most important thing that people in the autistic community need to understand is that it's a diverse experience. It's a diverse disability with many different with people with autism have a very different way of experiencing autism.
You said you don't don't know a lot of people with autism.
Admittedly, no, I don't.
I do.
Okay.
And from university professors to PhD specialists to workers at cashiers at stores.
Mm-hmm.
Do you seek out people that you suspect have autism?
I seek them out.
Yeah, when you go into in any type of situation, if you see somebody, do you look and say, "Oh man, this person probably has autism," as somebody I might need to know? Do you do that?
No.
I do.
Granted, I probably should. This is both.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, one, I do that with Black people. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
If I go into like an academic program or something like that, I'm watching, okay, especially older Black people, because I'm an older Black person. But because I have a son with autism, if I see a student with autism, if I see a colleague with autism, I try to reach out to them because they're like we're family, like we got a connection, like we understand. If I see somebody with bipolar disorder, my daughter has bipolar disorder, I reach out to them.
Now, to be fair, I think part of the reason why I don't seek out people with autism very much is because I don't seek out many people in general because I'm not the most social person. So that's part of it.
That's true. But okay, so now we have all of this anxiety, yet you have academically outdone 90s. If you complete this degree, you have put yourself in the upper 97 percentile. The upper 3 percentile of educated people in our population.
Statistics, yeah.
What was that journey like? You started off college, you said you had a hard time. How do you go from hard time in college to doctoral, hard time in college to 4.0 master's degree, and
like I said, like I said, freshman and sophomore year of college was a pretty rough time for me, and that was, well, obviously high school was the peak of my being self-conscious of my autism, but like college is also, during my sophomore year was definitely up there, only because I was not doing well at all, or at least not being where I thought I really should be, to the point where I kind of had to shift gears later, and from biochemistry major to a history major. And before that, like was my sophomore year, I was like at my lowest point, and I don't know, I just
what term? What term? Sophomore to junior.
I'm getting to that. Hold on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This. Being patient, I swear.
My bad.
Anyway, there was just a point during the fall semester of my sophomore year where I basically just told myself I need to. Actually, what it was is that when during my fall semester, I believe you suggested I sign up for an African American history class, because I think you've heard me say that history is a pretty cool subject, and I like the stories.
You were doing well
in the history classes,
and you were doing well in social sciences.
Yeah,
but you were having a hard time in the traditional sciences. And I said, well, maybe take some more of those.
Yeah,
which I knew for a year before that I was going to do. You probably need to just do history if you're doing good in history.
Yeah.
But you were like, no, I'm gonna be a doctor.
And that's what I told myself a lot of time. So when I decided to. At first, I balked at it because I was like, I'm not really sure this is what I want to do. But then after thinking about it for like a day, I was like, maybe I should try, because I'm really not doing well in these classes. And so I took that class. I realized I was doing well, actually better than I thought I was going to. I got an A out of that class. And actually not only that, but I also just had fun writing papers for it and doing the booklet tests, were basically required to write an essay about the topic, the subject of the essay. And I was like, no, I'm actually invested in what I'm talking about here. I'm not just, I don't feel like I'm just getting through it just to get through it. And so at some point, like during the middle of that fall semester, I was like, okay, I know that part of the reason why I failed in some of these classes was when I wasn't trying very hard, but also because I was processing information a little bit more slowly than many people do, possibly because of my autism. So, and I just kind of told myself, I need to sort of not surround myself with like depression around my autism, and just kind of learn to, be more positive about it, accept it, understand this is who I am, but also sort of like offset so understanding myself by trying a lot harder, just pushing myself to try harder. Not necessarily overachieving, but achieving a lot more than I used to. I think I told them, like, straight up. I think I told them, I'm going to put myself in a position where I'm going to try harder, and I'm going to put myself in a position where I kind of can't fail. Otherwise, things are going to go disaster for me. So I basically scared myself into trying harder. Now, granted, that did take a bit because I was still taking traditional science classes the next year. But by the end of 2019, by the end of my junior year, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and like change my degree plan into history. And thankfully, by that point, I had taken enough history classes to go out and graduate relatively on time, even though it was like maybe one semester late. But better late than never. And then by that point, I changed. I was like, okay, I accepted who I am, but I also and I know I'm going to try a lot harder. So by that point, I was like, I was doing well. I graduated, and then
I need to interrupt.
Okay.
Because now I'm going out of interviewer mode, and now I'm more into dad.
Oh boy.
You can't try your way out of autism, right?
No.
So if your effort level produced success, the problem probably was not autism. Problem was effort level.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of it was effort level for sure, absolutely. I mean, yes, but
that was something you were never allowed to do. Was we never hung nothing on autism.
No,
if I have, the thing is, I've never seen you give your best at something and fail.
Sure, yeah, that's fair. But you can't. I mean, you can't say autism doesn't play a factor. Maybe not a major factor, but it's still
okay. It doesn't play any more of a factor than it did when you were doing poorly than it does when you're doing well, because it's still there.
Yeah, I know.
It was just the same thing I did. I tried to get away with the high school games, but we don't want to talk about that. Okay, fine. Right. You get past there. I'm back in the interview mode, and now I have graduated right before you.
Yeah, graduated in 2021. Okay, he always loves when I say this. So he graduated. He was heading to a ceremony. He was going up on, and I saw him below the stands. He's going up on stage in his robe or his regalia with that golden sash and that black robe. He's going up on there, getting his degree, and then he came outside taking pictures. And I just told myself, or maybe I told everyone else, that straight up, I wanted that regalia, everything that he has on, the regalia, the cords, the degree, pretty much all of it. I said I wanted that immediately. Like after I graduate, I immediately said I want to go to the master's program and see what I can do. And then by that point, and I still had one more semester to go before I graduated. But by that point, I told myself, if I do this, if I go into the graduate program, I cannot let anything affect me, and I'm going to pass, or it'll be the last thing I do, or something bad's gonna happen. Again, scare myself into into graduating with a master's degree. And
did you get that regalia?
Yes, I got the regalia. I got yours actually. I got I wore your gown that you had when you graduated.
Well, it's now your gown.
Well, now it's my gown. But I wore your accords.
Yeah, he got into the International Honor Society. He got into the National Honor Society, and earned his master's degree actually beating my grade point average by 0.18.
Around there,
yeah. 0.18. Yeah, and there's nothing I can do about it.
Nothing you can do about it.
Yes, I graduated with a 3.82.
Yeah.
He graduated with a 4.
I'm not boasting. He's boasting about me. So
no, actually, that bothers me because I'm so competitive. He's not.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
And yeah, he crushed me as far as the master's degree. But I set a really high bar at the university that he's attending now. So we'll see.
Yeah.
And I don't even recommend that you try to outperform what I did.
I'm not necessarily.
I want you to enjoy it. But okay, fine. So you get this master's degree. What does that do about autism? Does that make you say, man, this autism stuff is a bunch of malarkey?
Well, not necessarily.
Or does it say, hey, I am an example of what people with autism can do? What does it say?
I mean, part of it is that as we move forward and have these with these ideas of autism and society, yes, it seems like the way I process my anxiety is sort of and then the way I sort of talk about my success is sort of a way of saying, like, yeah, I have autism, I have this disability, but it doesn't completely define me, or at the very least, I'm a showcase of a diverse experience of someone with autism. It's not a one-sided conversation. I'm showcasing that autism is not a one-sided conversation. Like,
are you the exception to the rule? I mean, obviously, just educationally, you're an exception because there's no most people don't have the level of education that you have right now, let alone what you're about to complete. Are you the exception to the rule, or are you proof that autism is just people, and the variety within autism is the same it is with variety within anybody else?
Definitely the latter. Definitely, I feel like autism is a variety of people. It is disability with the diversity, and anyone with autism can showcase a variety of different abilities. That isn't actually locked in with the idea that you're slower intellectually and socially, or like you're incapable of doing these things that most able-bodied people could do.
Here's a question I could only ask you.
Yeah, what? Get it out.
I will almost guarantee that no one has heard this question asked. Is it anything cool about being autistic?
Cool? Let's see. Well, for me, what's cool about being autistic is, when people like the way that I guess my autism shows that how antisocial I am sometimes.
What?
Not completely antisocial, you know what I mean, but not as social.
How is that cool? When it gives you an excuse to be antisocial?
No, not that.
What?
It's just that some people with autism will say that like part of autism is not exactly being the most social person, I guess.
Okay. But how is that cool?
I mean, it's cool because I've learned to sort of accept that and not feel bad about it. I'm just like,
oh, so you can get away with it.
I guess.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I feel.
I'm like, cool I don't mind being alone.
I'm gonna tell you what I think is cool about autism. I think it's cool because so many people hear autism and think, oh,
yes,
that's so sad.
Yeah, they're very. Yeah.
And I'm like,
sad. Uh-huh.
My son has never been in trouble. My son is responsible. He's got money in the bank. He works. He has a level of education that most of our population doesn't have.
Yeah.
He has traveled around the world. I love that people with that diagnosis, I call it a diagnosis, not a disability.
Yeah. Sure.
People with that diagnosis
Sure.
have the opportunity to shatter this expectation that they can't do.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it when people come to me and they're
Right.
telling me almost that they feel sorry for their children and that their children are limited. And then I tell them, why do you feel that way? And then I kind of purposely hold back the story to tell them about my autistic son and how, no, he's not slow. Yes, he's loving. Yes, he's fun. Yes, he's funny. He does excellent in education. He's traveled around the world. He's left the country by himself. His diagnosis is not his determination.
Yeah, there's something very gratifying about being a Black man and an autistic man and shutting down those very guarded expectations of what it means to be a Black man in America and what it means to be autistic. Because, a lot of people will say that the many things I've done is very unlikely because I'm autistic or because,
But that's what I'm saying. What you've done is unlikely for most people, let alone. Thank you, Khadijah. Khadijah said that she hopes you defend your dissertation and get your PhD.
Yeah, thank you. Oh boy.
And to be honest with you, this one right here, he helped me with my dissertation. To be honest with you, he did a lot.
I sure did.
And he wrote a thesis
about as long as his almost.
That really could be a dissertation on its own. So now he already has a body of work that he just has to expand as opposed to creating one. So I would be very surprised if he has much trouble.
I doubt it because, like I said, I already had that basis. So.
Yeah. But okay, so now you get the master's degree. You said you looked and you saw this attainable, this is real. I can get this regalia.
Mm-hmm.
If I make this accomplishment. When you get the master's, are you satisfied? What are you?
Oh boy. See, by the time I got the regalia, I already applied to the PhD program and I already been accepted, and I was already also in my first semester. So when I went out on stage, I was, happy that I was up there graduating, but also I was like at that point moved the goalpost to like get my PhD. So I was like not that satisfied. I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm glad I got this chapter done, but I'm already going to go on to the next chapter, even though the chapter isn't over yet. So this
okay. So when will it sink in? When will it sink in what you're doing? I'm gonna tell you.
Will it ever sink in? That's my question.
Oh, wait a minute. When you defended your master's degree.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. That would make me nervous.
I remember telling you, I was like, dude, you're gonna be nervous. It's okay. And you're looking at me like,
yeah.
What? I'm not gonna be nervous.
I told them there's no way I got this. It's gonna be fine.
And I'm like, dude.
30 minutes before, I called him and said, I'm walking around outside the campus and I'm sweating and I don't know what I'm gonna do here. Help! I need a pep talk, please.
Man,
what do I do?
That was so funny. But I'm gonna tell you,
I knew, but
the same thing happened.
Yeah.
To me, not with my master's. I was nervous over my master's dissertation, but it was such a mess because of COVID and everything.
Yeah.
But that PhD dissertation, I was talking to myself.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I doing this? Why do I do this to myself? I don't even need this degree. I got 2 full-time jobs. Why am I doing it? I was so bugged out.
Yeah.
I was really I was telling you. I was like, man. So when you left out of there, how did that feel?
Yep.
Even autism to the side.
Well,
most people don't get a master's degree.
Well,
how did that feel?
Well, but okay, when I walked in to defend, because everyone else was pretty calm, I felt a lot less pressured.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I was actually calming a lot more I was calming down while I was in there when I was talking, and I was like, okay, I think I can actually do this. I think I can talk for an hour and a half. And
so as you started talking, you were good.
Yeah, as I started talking, and I started like presenting, and I started asking their questions or answering their questions. I said, okay, yeah, I feel better now, even though I was sweating. I'm still sweating. My sweat's still there.
Did you have any adversarial situations where people were challenging?
Sure. Yes, I did. I had people ask me, like I had one of the professors, one of my advisors stood up and asked me, like, what did you think about? So I know you used the capital B black in your thesis, but what did you think about having capital W white in my thesis? And I sort of gave a very short explanation as to why that is.
I so wish somebody would ever ask me that.
Yeah, right.
I know. You know what I get? I get beef from white professors, now colleagues, about using the word Negro.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes white.
Oh, it does.
People very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. Yeah.
And I have my rationale as to why I use the word Negro, but go ahead though. Go ahead. So when you walk out, it's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Is your heart racing? Are you amazed? Are you?
No, that's it. My heart was racing. I definitely felt proud by the time I walked out of it.
Okay.
That office.
Was the first thing that popped in your mind? I got to do when you finish this master's degree and you walk out of there. Was like, what do I got to do? What's the first thing? Do I go celebrate? Do I go get a drink?
What? I don't drink. But the first thing I did was call you. This is what I did.
Yeah.
I did. I called you, and then after that, I was like, I'm gonna go celebrate by sitting down and I'm playing video games. This is just relax because I earned it.
Was mommy with me?
I don't know.
You called me and mommy, or you called me first?
I called you both. I don't remember if you were together.
Okay.
I know I called you both. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna call everyone, tell them what I did, and then let you tell everyone else what I did too. Guess what you did. And then sort of spend the rest of that time relaxing a bit, and then being a little nervous again for a PhD because that's what I knew that was about to happen very soon. Because like I said, by that point I've been approved and let in.
So we can start to wrap this up. I gotta hear about your first day of classes as a PhD student, because I remember I was grown enough to have raised you. I was so nervous I called my parents. I showed up. I'm not joking.
You went to your first PhD class, you got nervous?
Dude, I don't know why. Huh. I was like off the chain. I was like, I called Indiana. Huh. And my parents had to talk me to. I think I called mommy. She was at work. I called Squeaky, my brother. He wasn't available. And then I called mom and daddy, and they answered the phone. And I was like, I don't even know why I'm nervous. It's just a class. So did you have any intimidation, any nervousness? Did you have anything when you walked into that university, or was it just like new university, same deal, new university?
I wish I could have gotten nervous sometimes. I couldn't. I don't know why. There's no way I couldn't. I wasn't nervous at all.
Wow.
I wasn't nervous at all, but only because I was like, most of the classes I went to in my master's program were already kind of PhD.
No, I'm talking about your PhD.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, go ahead.
Most of the classes I went to in my master's kind of felt like were already a huge step up in terms of a challenge from my undergrad. So I'm like PhD, and a lot of them were taking my PhD students too. So I was like pretty sure my PhD classes are going to be very similar to my master's classes, and I mean, let's be honest, they kind of were. They kind of are right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that much. Okay, I mean, I've been taking a lot more seminar classes,
mm-hmm.
classes where I'm actually writing like long 25, 30 page seminar papers and all. And I guess in that way I felt nervous because I'm like, I need to like really focus on like my writing skills a lot more than, if I were writing a historiography or a state of the field essay or something. But also I was like, well, I already wrote a thesis, so I'm like, I've already done a lot of research before, but I'm pretty sure I can do the same thing. I'm pretty sure I can do the same thing in the seminar classes, but at least I'm writing a lot less.
Okay.
So that doesn't mean I don't get nervous from time to time. I mean, I just wrote a seminar paper right now, and I was like, before my political history class, and I'm I got a little nervous about writing that a little bit, and then at some point I was like, okay, I know exactly what to write about, and I know where to find my sources, especially when I contacted like historical societies from many states away from here, and I got those sources for free. I was like, okay, I actually feel a lot better now about writing this thing. And but so after a while, like those nerves kind of went away. I think I'll feel a lot nervous when I'm doing comps. That might be where it starts to hit. But then after that, I'm like, well, now I'm just doing research I'm already familiar with. So
I think I kept doing it. I kept thinking that I said, okay, I'm nervous about the classes, and I started the class, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be worried about comps. Comps is what's going to get me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, comps, and then comps I ran right through, and then I was like, oh, this is it, the dissertation,
the actual writing,
and dissertation, and then I get up, and it was just something. It was always something to do. And man,
you have every right to be nervous. So.
When it was time to defend, and I had a warm, supportive committee. Now they did challenge me though.
No, they did.
I had one guy.
They did.
I had one of, and again, the person who challenged me the most was probably the most active in helping me. But he just substantively disagreed with my work because he is a specialist in slavery in a different hemisphere.
Sure, yeah.
And he vehemently challenged my work where I had to display expertise.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between a master's degree and a PhD is that
you
are attaining expertise. And it wasn't.
Yeah, you're there to.
Yeah, it wasn't fun and games because his criticism struck at the core of my research and competency.
Right.
But at the same time, if I couldn't defend it,
that's it.
I shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
So it was good stuff. But what I want to do, I want to go ahead and close it now because we're not going to.
Yeah, right out of time.
But I would like to actually have you come back on class and session, and I think this was good for the world of autism and young people, young Black people, Black males. You are just the epitome of a positive image of all of those things. I've told your mother many times I couldn't imagine a better son.
Yeah.
But what I would like is the next time you come on that, we talk about the research. We talk about post-colonial antebellum activity of Black people and how they built and fought for independence, as to where there is a historic narrative that Black people have always begged white people to do something for them, or that they felt that they should get something that they hadn't done, when we actually have a history, a long, rich history of working together, pooling our resources, helping each other, and functioning as a community. I would like for us to get a chance to do that in the future. So if you really want to welcome to come back. Any thoughts that you would like to close us out with?
You guys keep stay safe out there. I know it's harsh, but you guys can get through it.
It's harsh. It is harsh out there. So again,
autism is not a mental illness. That's also my only thought. Thank you.
No. You don't have to rush it in there. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I have to say. Just very simple state, point back, period. That's autism is not a mental illness. Anyone who says it is, including our government, they're lying. They're wrong.
I don't, and that's where Mark and I agree. I do not think that autism is a mental illness. I don't think autism is a disability necessarily. It depends on how severe it is. What I believe the most accurate way to refer to it is it's a diagnosis.
Right.
And once you know that diagnosis is present, then you can determine whether it is a disability.
Right.
So that's my particular feeling on it, and I would encourage people to find out, is it a disability, before you just assume that it is. And you can meet some marvelous people that have different diagnoses,
Absolutely.
So if you hear somebody has autism, it's not necessarily something to feel sorry for them about.
Absolutely not. No.
It's like, I mean, we want you to have empathy as much as you would have empathy for anybody walking around.
Right.
But I think there's a lot to learn. I think that this probably offered a good degree of education to,
I hope so,
the internet or the internet world about the many faces of autism, about scholarship, about dedication, about growth. Right. So again, please like, share, subscribe. What is your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I don't have one. So just like, share, subscribe to his channel.
Yes, Dr. Darnell Bolton, PhD. And we will see you guys soon
for the next live stream. Catch you next time.
All right.